Alright, welcome back. So now we're in Module 4, Topic 1, Circles, okay, and Shapes. And we did arc lengths and radius last time, so now it's this thing called chords in circles. Here we go. Okay, the radius, and then we got an angle measure, and this is to refresh our memory about the central angle. So let's get started. Okay, select arc GC. Boom. The measure of arc GC, 45.4. And we know that that is true because of the angle is degrees. There you go. And the reason is because of the central angle. Alright? Select circle E. Oh, let's just grab the center. Okay, the circumference is 2 times pi r. 2 pi r, 90.6. So let's go 2 times 90.6 times, let's find our pi button. Boom. Let's see if that works. Perfect. And we know that it's in inches. And the reason we know that is because it's called the circumference, distance around. Okay? Select arc GC. The arc to circle ratio, it's 1 to 1. The central angle and the arc are equal. 45.4. Arc to circle ratio, the percent of the total. My bad. So we divide everything by 360, and then we'll just type in arc to circle ratio. Okay, now the measure of GC, 45.4. Arc length. Oopsie. Okay, so circumference. Yeah, it's listed right there, 568.968. 568.968. Now, we want to multiply by the percent of the total. We have the whole circumference, like this circle that I'm in, but we only want a piece. Well, what piece? 45.4 of slash the whole 360. Good. And that's going to be in inches. And the reason is because the arc to circle ratio. No? Oh, arc length. Ugh. I'm dumb today. Alright. Go to a problem. Okay, so what do we want? Okay. Okay, the measure of WZ is 125.6, and that's because it's called the central angle rule. Okay, and that's in degrees. Alright, what else do we need here? That it? Circle. The circumference is 2 times pi times r, and that's going to be in inches. The reason is because it's called the circumference. Why won't it let me in? There we go. Phew. Wouldn't let me in for a second. Arc to ratio. Okay, so the arc to circle ratio, 125.6 125.6 of the whole thing. And that's the arc to circle ratio. Now the measure of this is the whole thing, 616.068 times the 125.6 of the whole thing. And those are in inches, and that's because it's called the arc to circle ratio. No, arc length. Arc length. Arc length. Arc length. There we go. Phew. Clicking is harder today. Okay, so now GC. So we want this guy. Okay, the measure GC is 126.9 degrees, and the reason is because it's called a central angle. And then circumference is 2 times pi times r. R, measure the diameter. We want r 70. And that's going to be inches, miles, and that's because it's called the circumference. Now, arc to circle ratio. Arc to circle ratio is 126.9 of the whole thing. Arc to circle ratio, and now the measure of GC, 439.6 times the arc to circle ratio, the percent of the whole. This time we'll make sure we put miles. And this is called the arc length. And there we go. There we go. And we'll just keep doing them. Alright, so DJ, the measure of DJ degrees, and that's called the central angle. And then we have the circumference is 2 times pi times r. Half of 86.2, 43.1, 43.1. And we'll get this one right this time, yards, and circumference, distance around. Okay, now the arc to circle ratio, 21.1 of the whole 360. Arc circle ratio. Now the measure of DJ, 270.668. 270.668. So we have the whole thing times the arc to circle ratio, percent of the whole, yards, and that's the arc length. Okay. Okay, this might be our last one. So the measure of DZ is 87.0 degrees, and that's because it's called the central angle. And then the circumference is 2 times pi times r, 78.9 meters. And that's because it's called the circumference. And now we need the arc to center ratio, 87 of the whole thing. And that's called the arc to circle ratio. Now the measure of the whole thing is that 495.492. That's the whole circumference. 492 times 87 of the whole thing. And again, we're in meters, and this is called the arc length. Hey, we got a golden cup. Dun, dun, dun. And this should have completed that workspace. Okay, all right. So sector of a circle. Okay, sector of a circle. All right. So we'll be back in the next video for sector